And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, July 26th, the last Friday of July. Is so vastly different than last Friday's what just happened. A week ago, so much has changed. And to break it down, two, maybe even three comedians, but we know for sure, and a journalist actually. Nida
Oh,
Khan, journalist, my buddy, she's written for HuffPost, Essence, CNN.com, and so much more. She's produced and done radio herself. Nitha, nice to see you, my friend.
good to see you. Thank you for upgrading me to comedian.
Yeah, that's right. You could be a comedian. You could be in the
Right?
Brown Show.
Exactly.
The Brown
Right.
Show's this Sunday in New York City at the comic strip. If anyone's interested, drop me an email, dean@radio.com.
I
We'll
did
see you
not know.
soon.
Thank you for letting me know.
You want to come, you're on the guest list. You let me know.
Oh, thank
And
you.
Rhonda Hansome is back, our friend, national touring comedian. She was Bermuda in the movie Pretty Woman. She's performed with the Muppets on Saturday Night Live. She's open for Anita Baker, Diana Ross, and people know her from every Monday on John Fugelsang's show on this very channel. Rhonda, how are you?
Radio Rhonda is doing great.
Radio Rhonda's happy, good spirit. Before the show, I asked her how she was doing. She said 3 excellence. You
Yes.
can't beat that. I don't even. It's like if doing a self for out of Yelp out of 5, that would be just okay. But still, it sounds good. So let's talk about first of all. This has been the most unbelievable week, whirlwind. On Sunday, we'll go back to Sunday. Surprise news that President Biden says he's not running for re-election. So, Rhonda, let me start with you. What was your reaction before we get to Kamala Harris and everything else? Just what was your reaction on Sunday when that breaking news alerted everyone?
Well, I felt like it was about time because Biden was trying to pull that same stunt that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did of staying at the party too long. And we had all kinds of excuses. He had meetings, he had a cold, what have you. I mean, it's time. It was time, and it was actually past time. So I just felt like, well, now on to the next chapter.
Interesting. And Nitha, what about you? What was your, and again, before we get to VP Harris and what's happened, what was your reaction when you heard the news?
Listen, the kid said Genocide Joe has got to go, and now he has. So that's one part of it that people have not talked about, Dean. You know, I've been on your show discussing all the protests against Biden, the ongoing horrific genocide, mass murder of Palestinians in Gaza. And, you know, that's why you saw such a backlash against Biden and you saw the uncommitted votes. And this is my theory. This is just another speculating.
Oh,
but
boy.
I know. Oh boy, here we go. But I think once everybody saw the numbers, like the loss that he was going to have in places like Michigan and even possibly Pennsylvania, many other states that were in play, that's when the money people, they were like, wait a minute. And I think, that's also why they moved the debate up early so that, because, Biden had two things that were going against him. It was the protests against Gaza and then also the age cognitive thing. So I think they pushed the debates up early so everybody could see the cognitive part of it and use that as the excuse to kind of push him out into the sunset so everybody could see that, rather than admitting the other aspect of how he lost so much support through young voters, especially. So again, that's my theory on it, but I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, I said it last year. I wrote a piece in October that he lost a big swath of his base. And if he does not change course, if they don't change policy on Gaza, he's not going to be able to be the nominee. So I fully expected them to swap him out.
I was very surprised. I thought he was going to stay in it to the end. It's interesting though, Nathan, you're right, and I've mentioned it on the show. I even mentioned it this week that the first time Joe Biden got in trouble with Democratic base had nothing to do with age or acuity, nothing like that. Had to do with policy. The same way President Johnson had issues with the Vietnam War and began to split the Democratic base. So it became a policy issue where Biden, Gaza moved to the background of the news. It wasn't getting the coverage. It was unless you're in the community. Then we see it every day on our Instagram and Facebook, and it's still very much relevant to us. So now President Biden stepped in. I actually thought he would try to stick it out to the end. I will tell you, callers to my show overwhelmingly wanted him to stay in the race, even those who were very critical of him on Gaza, had called him before, had thought he had done a good job on other issues and deserved a second term, and also were repelled by what they viewed as ageism that was going on by people that had nothing to do with Gaza or anything, just like the idea he's old, blah, blah, blah. Let's discard him. So then we get to, so that happened Sunday.
But
President
Dean,
Biden,
I want to
yes,
just say that
please.
he did not have what Ronald Reagan had. Ronald Reagan had his wife and her astrologer keeping things on an even keel until he could ride it out. This was not evident, and there was like nothing that could keep us from seeing the deterioration that he had mentally.
That's very true. And it's interesting about the debate that you mentioned, Nitha, that the debate ended up hurting him. But joining us now, our second comedian, our third panelist for the day. It's our friend Amanda Gail, comedian touring all over. She's written for Reductress. She's been on this show and many other SiriusXM shows and does a podcast as well. Amanda, nice to see you.
Hi, Dean. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Thanks for being here. And Nida Khan, Rhonda, it's Amanda Gail, who I think you guys may have met before. Yeah. So we were just talking about the news. What was your reaction when you heard the news before we talk VP Harris, because we're going to talk a lot about her. What was your reaction when you heard Sunday that President Biden's like, that's it, I'm done?
I actually predicted it. I mean, I don't know if it was my first prediction, but, I think that's why they had the debates early. Because
that's what Nida just said. Why did you say that? That's interesting. I haven't heard people say that. You think they did that on purpose from inside the White House to show America what was going on?
No, I think the Dems wanted to see how he'd do.
Oh.
And then when they saw, they're like, okay, we need someone that would definitely go toe to toe with Trump,
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting that the Democrats wanted the debate early, because I was surprised he agreed to it early. It didn't matter. At the time, the polls were getting closer and closer between him and Trump. And I'm like, he's going to have a good debate. That's going to give him the fuel he needs to win this election. And it was the opposite. And then the polls went the other way.
He called for the debate. The Dems wanted this thing.
Yeah.
It was a crap show. It was terrible.
It wasn't.
They set up all the rules. It was their idea. And he stepped in it up to his eyeballs.
And there was, look, so now that's done. That page is done. President Biden gave a speech on Wednesday, and he handed the torch to Vice President Harris really on Sunday, but on Wednesday he made a national address. So let's talk about Vice President Harris. And Rhonda, what's your reaction now in this first few days of this week? The people rallying around her. She raised a record amount of money in 24 hours. I have never, organizations that were not liking Biden anymore, Working Families Party, Gen Z for Change, all endorsing Vice President Harris. There's a level of excitement that I could not have predicted. I mean, I like Vice President Harris, but this is remarkable. But where do you come down, Rhonda?
I think that if people want to throw their money at her, they are very welcome to do it. She's raking it in. And I don't think that polls or the amount of money may necessarily predict a positive outcome, but she's got money, she's got excitement, people are all enthusiastic, so we'll see. Because I'll tell you this straight out.
Tell me.
I'm not going to be fooled again with the enthusiasm and the hope and change and all of this feminism and and then be sitting there with my finger in my nose.
So what do you want? Like, did you want an open primary, or are you just saying you're not opposed to her, you're just not getting invested in this emotionally? Is that what you're telling me?
I can't invest in any of these people anymore. I'm too old, Dean. I'm too old.
For this crap, like Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon.
I have invested a lifetime in these people, and they have disappointed me time after time after time.
So, Amanda, has this been a bad relationship with you and elected officials? Like, you want to swipe right on a new political platform to meet someone else, or what's going on here?
Well, I think Biden did everything he said he would do. I mean, Biden had a successful presidency. And what happened with Obama, I mean, it wasn't exactly his fault. I mean, there was more filibusters under Obama than any president, right? I mean, that's something I had read, and I think it's true.
That's true, because the Republicans got control of the Senate. They got control of the House after 2 years, and then the Senate a couple years later.
Right. So Mitch McConnell, when Obama was elected, said we will do everything we can to make sure he's not elected again. I mean, the Republicans really, I hate to victim blame or whatever, they did not want him to be successful, Obama. I mean, he got Obamacare and everyone likes that. But so I think Obama tried to have hope and change, and I think they wouldn't let him. They really did not want him to be successful. And I am so excited for Kamala. I can't even tell you. I have always liked her. And the narrative was always, I always said, well, what about her? What about her? Everyone's like, the narrative was, oh, she's not likable. I said, has anyone heard her on an interview? She's so likable. She's so intelligent and put together. And I think she's insanely charismatic. And I was always like, I don't see that her being unlikable, you know? So I am so excited. I can't wait to vote for her. I think this is great. So I'm really excited.
That's interesting that you said that about Harris. Last summer, I was invited to Vice President Harris's house, their residence, for an Eid event for a Muslim. There's like 80 or 90 people there. And she was great. I joked around with her. She laughed. I have a picture of us. Sorry, Nitha. Sorry, I cut you off the list. It was me. Like Nitha Khan. No, there can only be one. So and then we have a mutual friend from California who's Palestinian American who they flew in just to introduce her, who's raised money for her and everything. And was telling, and I'm like, she's amazing. I was like, I came back on the show. I'm like, I don't know what the media spin is.
I know.
And then I was playing clips at the colleges talking about reproductive freedom for the last year, where it's packed houses. And she's killing it. She's really grown, I will say. From 2020, when she was on the stage as a primary candidate, till now, the growth is remarkable because she's been a world leader. So she's traveled the world, traveled the country. And I had a member of Congress on last night who said it was when Dobbs' decision overturning Roe v. Wade that she really grew, because this was a decision that she's been about so much, reproductive freedom. She could lean into it organically, knowing all the details, having the credibility, and it made her grow. So she's not the same person from 2020 from the stage, which was pretty good candidate.
I liked her back. Yeah, I liked her better than Hillary. I always loved Hillary, not trying to knock Hillary. I'm like a Hillary girl, but I liked her better than Hillary, honestly. And I think, I remember, I hate to be like a hipster, but I liked her before she was cool, when she was first, 2020. And so, yeah, I've always been a big fan of hers. So.
Nitha, we talked about you at the event last year with that vice president.
Oh, I'm sure
you should invite Nida Khan here. No, but it was interesting. That was like my first experience chatting briefly with her, but in a small room, where she gave a speech that was on the script and off scripted, and she joked around. She was funny, and her husband Doug was there. I call him Doug. Like I met him for 30 seconds, but I'm like, but there were members. But there was it was fun, and I was like, I had a different view of her after that. And I'm like, more people have to see this woman. So Nitha, what's your reaction to the idea of the prospect of Vice President Harris? She's going to be the Democratic nominee now. It's presumptive, and potentially president.
So I aspire to be as cool as you one day, Dean, and invited to all of these events. I have yet to be invited. Even during the Obama years, somehow I was always left off the list, but that's neither here nor there. So you
never went to a summer house in Hyannisport? What? My God, I have to show you a picture. No, I don't have any. I'm kidding. I went to 2 events with him in 8 years, but go ahead.
So I have been a long time advocate in terms of saying that this woman is fierce, brilliant, and what actually during the Biden years, they kind of kept her hidden. The reason why a vast swath of the population, vast majority of people don't necessarily know her is because she was in the back burner, or there wouldn't be enough media attention when she was out on the world stage. So that's why she's finally getting this attention now, and having everybody look at her like, wow, I didn't realize she was so amazing. And I'm going to give myself props because nobody else does, so might as well. So I did her first interview and profile in Essence magazine way back in 2011.
Wow.
So have been on I was like, wow. And even back then, and it was funny because my news editor and I at the time, we made a joke saying that, and I don't even think it was a joke, we were being serious. We were like, I think she's going to be president one day. And we said that to each other all the way back then, because we knew that was going to be her trajectory. Just brilliant, fierce woman. So to borrow a phrase, I'm fired up and ready to go, needless to say. And I think a lot of women are, and you mentioned Dobbs. I think that also has galvanized so many women and men across the board to rally for her even more than Hillary. And you saw that with the Black women that organized the call, white women, Latina women. You even had, I think, South Asian women that are doing it today.
Really?
Yeah. They're calling it Lotus for FLOTUS, which is really cute. I was like, okay, that's adorable. So they're doing
Lotus
that. Young people. You're seeing young people. And I said, I had an argument actually a couple of weeks ago with a friend of mine who was like, oh, I don't know if she's going to be able to do it, if it's going to be her. I was like, listen, the amount of energy and enthusiasm that it's going to generate is going to be historic. I was like, just watch. And I covered a lot of Obama's campaign. I have not seen anything like this since then. And what I really find refreshing and nice is something that I've always criticized the Dems about, for not having enough backbone, not being, taking a fight. They always take like a pontificating inciting thought to a knife fight is what I've always said. So for the first time, you're seeing Kamala, she came out the gate like, oh yeah, and went at Trump right at him. And he is so shook that he's backed out of the debates for now. So I love it. I'm like, I'm here for it. And I just hope, the one thing what we were discussing earlier with Gaza and young people, she has the momentum now. And she did come out yesterday and humanize Palestinians. She humanized them more in that one presser than Biden did over 9 months. So that was good. But in terms of
generation.
You know what, Nida, I really, I'm fascinated to hear that Asians are supporting her, because since she was inaugurated, I always put up the hashtag America's first Asian vice president, and I didn't feel like they were claiming her at all. And I really don't understand when you say they kept her hidden. Wasn't she designated border czar? Wasn't she supposed to be watching?
Well, that's what they say on the right, but her job was like to try to do things with the border and try to do things with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she never met with any of the chiefs of the borders, 2 successive chiefs. She never met with them.
I don't know exactly. The idea of border czar is really something created by the right, in terms of like, she was supposed to be in charge of the border. Obviously, the president and the Homeland Security Secretary are really in charge of the border, but she was supposed to do some things with the border. Look, they're going to bring up everything in the world. They don't know what to do. Like, Nitha, to your point, like, I love this. So Trump at his rally literally complained that he goes, they have an ad about me. It says, I'm the prosecutor and he's the convicted felon. And she turned that into an ad going, I approve of this ad. I approve of this. Yeah, this ad. At the end of it, him just saying that. And then I saw Larry Trump on TV. It's so unfair. They're talking about his convictions. Hey, don't commit any felonies if you don't want to be convicted of any crimes. Because Biden was not taking the fight. I mean, Biden was on the defensive since the debate anyway, and there was nothing. He was not going to prosecute this like this. She is prosecuting it. She's leaning in. I'm the prosecutor. Just yesterday, they put out a statement saying a 78-year-old criminal on Fox News today, and then a whole bunch of questions about what he said and what is wrong with the guy. Something wrong with him. They're mocking his age. They're doing all things they were going to do. So what do you think about that, Amanda? The idea of leaning in hard on what were the weaknesses they were prying on Biden about age? Now they're doing it against Trump and saying nobody wants an 80-year-old guy president. Come on. It's so funny. Just a week before, everyone's like, oh, he could be Biden, could be 81, 82, doesn't matter. Like, oh, come on.
Right. Now that Trump does it, it's fine, right? It's always a double standard. But yeah, I know, I love this. I think she is the only person that can go toe to toe with him. And she's just so quick, and she's so, I love this last season of America. So,
This is the last season of America?
The last season of the United States.
Of course it is.
It's building.
This is a soap opera. It's like, you can't write this. You can't make this up. She's such a compelling person, and I'm really, really excited for her. And I think she's gonna really crush it at the debates.
Trump is so struggling. At his rally, he said Kamala Harris, because she didn't go to Netanyahu's speech, she had an event. She goes, she hates Jewish people, and the headlines were, someone should tell her husband. Her husband and the stepchildren are Jewish. I mean, like, that's how struggling that Trump has no idea what to do now. He's like, she hates white people, everything. She hates everybody.
Don't you understand? He has always been this unhinged, and he was the same way when he was in the White House.
Very much so.
Every single day, he tweeted some kind of insanity that would make us all want to sigh, just sigh in disbelief. He is unhinged. He's a liar. He's a manipulator. And his strong point, which he exceeds at, is making up ridiculous nicknames for people.
And he's a racist. And this election ultimately comes down to, and I'm glad Kamala Harris has leaned into this too, is the past versus the present and the future. Yep. That's fundamentally what it is. It's like people who want to hold on to some relegated notion of the past before the civil rights era. They want to take us back to that. And then people that want to see a future that's inclusive, that's for everybody, that wants to keep progressing forward. And that's all it is. It's like A or B, and that's why I'm like, those are the choices. That's what it is. So which side are you going to be on?
I think that's a great point. At the rally at Vice President Harris's first campaign rally in Wisconsin on Tuesday, I played clips on the show, and where she talked about, we're not going back, and talked about what Trump wants to do, what he did. And the crowd, thousands of people organically began chanting, we are not going back. And I thought it was, what a great contrast. A week before in Milwaukee at the RNC, they're chanting, send them back. And it was the idea of mass deportations. And send them back is not just a literal statement, it's figurative. We want to go backwards to a 50s America where white, right-wing Christian men ran everything. That's what they want. That's what MAG is about. So I thought, what a great contrast. It's we're not going back versus send them back. And I'm hopeful. So Rhonda, what do you think? You've seen a lot. Do you think this new version of hope? Because it really is. You touched on it. Right? It's a new version.
I am not falling for hope and change. I'm not falling for symbolism. I don't care how many bags of collard greens she carried through the airport. I am not falling for it, Dean.
So what would it take for you to get excited about it? Is it about policy?
I am voting for the person who is going to commit to and do an executive order for Friedman, FBA, ADOS reparations, lineage-based reparations.
Wow. That's what you want. That's your priority.
That is my priority. Dean, you have to realize that the Republicans, when they want something, it doesn't matter if it takes them decades to get it. They keep pounding at it. What they've overturned Roe versus Wade. Soon, women aren't even going to be able to use birth control, let alone get abortions. And I feel like if I don't start now going for reparations for foundational Black Americans, it won't be done. This is the time for it. And that's who I'm voting for. The person who isn't wishy-washy, the person who isn't going to tell me about a commission, a report, or a study. When everybody else is getting money, reparations, even Xboxes, hotel stays. I mean, it is time for the people who literally built America with our blood, with our hands, with our sweat, to get compensated, not just for the generations of free labor and Jim Crow and lynching. And I don't even have to say what happened this week with Sonia Massey, that almost every week we have to deal with some form of police brutality against unarmed people, against unarmed Black people. So yes, it's time for reparations. And that person who is going to promise that to me on a lineage-based way, in a lineage-based way, I will absolutely give them my unqualified support.
Can I ask a question? So if she doesn't come out and say that she's going to promise to do that, do you think she's somebody that can be pushed to do that once in office? And would that...
See, Nida, that's an interesting question, and that's the trick bag, because you say, oh, let her get in there and then she'll do it. It ain't gonna happen. It's a transactional situation. You do what I need or you don't get my vote, because once they get in there, they start fudging around. What happened to all the Police Act? What happened to that? Biden got in there and told Sharpton and the NAACP, you're gonna have to get behind the Hispanics and all. And we were the ones that got him over the line. Oh, fish fry Clyburn came in there and said, oh, get out and vote, get out and vote. And we put him over the line. And after we put him over the line, all these other groups, Asians, Hispanics, was trying to take the credit for it. And I'm not falling for the symbolism. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Yeah, let them get in and do it. We'll be sitting here waiting for the rest of our lives.
Well, with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, Biden actually did try to get that through. And I believe it was the Senate that voted.
It was. Tim Scott.
Nothing beats a try but a failure.
But that goes back to, because, and I think this is also why a lot of the money panicked with Biden at the top of the helm, because it was going to impact the down ballot races as well, because that is just as important, if not more important, than the presidential top of the ticket, because those actions and what happens in your local districts, local areas impacts you even more. So it's regardless of how you may feel about the top candidates, it's so important to participate in elections. And I always say that. I remember I said that on your show before too, Dean.
We're going to play the clip right now. No, I don't have the clip. So I'm saying with Amanda Gail, Rhonda Hansome, and Nida Khan. So let's talk about, you raised it, Nida, but the debates. So Amanda, so Trump he wanted to debate. He literally anytime, anywhere, Joe Biden, he'll debate him. So Vice President Harris like, okay, let's do this. Let's debate. And now his team's like, well, we didn't mean her. We meant the other guy. We wanted to debate the old guy that we debated last time. Can you just bring him out? It's like, no, that's not how it works anymore. There's someone else running against you. So do you think in your heart, you can predict now, do you think Trump ever agrees to debate Vice President Harris?
Oh, I didn't even think. Does he have an op? Oh, I guess I actually don't know. Is it required to debate?
No, there's no
not.
requirement at all. There's nothing.
So yeah, I actually think that he won't. I actually didn't. I apologies for my ignorance. I didn't know how it worked, but yeah, I think he'll be like no, because he has such an ego. I don't think that man has a conviction for anything. I think he is a businessman. I think he is about money, and he will say whatever he wants to his base to get money, and he does not like to look bad. So his ego is bigger than anything. So he doesn't.
You're absolutely right, Amanda. I mean, is he going to agree to a debate? He didn't even agree to let the medical records from that fiasco with these quote attempted assassination be put out, let alone his college records, which we know are in the toilet.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah. And what is he going to say about her? I mean, like you said, Dean, he can't say about age. Doesn't have a criminal, she had no scandals like Hillary did. And also she's not Nepo. And this whole conversation now with Gen Z is Nepo. And Hillary was essentially Nepo. She got a lot of her stuff from her husband. And there's nothing you can say about Kamala in that vein. You only have, positive things. So I think that's.
Nida, where do you come down? Nepo Nida. Where do you come down?
Yeah, right. I wish I was a Nepo.
I know. Me too. I wish what can we do? So do you think do you think Trump ultimately agrees to debate one time, Vice President Harris, or no?
I don't know. I think it's going to depend on how things go.
Polling? You mean like things like that?
Say it again?
Polling, like if he starts trailing,
polling,
because when you're trailing, you want to debate. When you're leading, you tend not want to debate. That's how it works.
So polling, and then also if they're able to get their messaging right and find something to go after her with. Because right now, to your point, Amanda, they have nothing. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to see what sticks, And I found it really interesting that Mike Johnson had to come out and say, don't be sexist or racist. And you have to state that in 2024 to your people is just ridiculous in and of itself. But he had to make that statement because they know that it's just going to create a bigger back.
Oh my God. But you imagine that, like Mike Johnson coming out and saying it to the Republicans, none of you be racist or sexist. And he's like, don't make me laugh. Nobody look down, look away. Like that, like Jim Jordan, don't look at me. Because they know it's a bullshit. I mean, that's what fuels them is sexism and racism. She is their worst nightmare because she brings these two together. Yet things have shifted. So they're doing DEI higher. And so, Rhonda, I wanted to go to you on this whole idea, DEI, the diversity hire bullshit. Have you heard this in your career? Have you ever had people try to smear you with this?
I don't think it's a smear because in my experience, DEI, affirmative action are all things that benefit white women. So you can't smear me with that.
And that's their way to try to demean. What about you, Nita? Have you ever been called any kind of thing where you only got that because you're brown?
I've been called everything. And it's interesting because yesterday I criticized and lightly criticized the statement that you put out about the protest in DC. And I was like, it was too harsh because it makes it appear that all the protesters were violent. But then I praised her in the evening for showing sympathy and empathy towards Palestinians and being very forceful in that. And I got it from all ends of the spectrum, all the trolls, as usual, in there. So I've been called everything you can imagine. And it's so insulting and disgusting when they use that smear. And so you're talking about a woman, children of immigrants who worked her ass off to get where she is, right? Through the ranks, continuously earned her spot, has more experience than both of those fools combined, the former President Trump and his JD Vance, who wrote some mediocre book that unfortunately people mainstreamed and made it popular. And now he's, a vice presidential candidate. I mean, if anybody is a DEI hire, it is those two. And Trump is the epitome of a Nepo baby who would never be where he is without his father's money. So let's be serious about who is the actual hard worker and who is not.
Right.
Very true. It's kind of remarkable. The closest I got called a diversity hire by a right-wing guy like 7-8 years ago, a jerk from Fox News. He was a contributor or like regular guest because of this show. Because I had mentioned I'm the first Muslim to host a national radio show at the time. And I'm like, yeah, actually you're jealous because you have no talent. And that's all it is, because he was just like a bitter, older white guy. So, all right, let's take a break and come back. And Nitha touched on it. JD Vance, we got to talk about this guy's redefining awful. It's really, this is the more footage we find, the more I go, apparently Trump's idea of vetting was asked Donald Trump Jr. in between snorting things. What do you think of this guy? He's like, I love this guy. He's my bro. And now it's a truckload of garbage. So let's take a break and come back with more of what just happened right after this. Ready? And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're continuing our conversation here, Friday, July 26th, with Amanda Gail, Rhonda Hansome, and Nida Khan. We're talking now JD Vance, who's making Sarah Palin look like Winston Churchill and George Washington combined. Like, I mean, remember Sarah Palin was the definition of the worst VP pick? Because usually VP picks don't help or hurt. They're sort of neutral. She hurt John McCain. This is a new level. And on Fox News, maybe they're not covering so Trump doesn't know what's going on. But this, I actually was offended at this. Sincerely, I'm not kidding. But this was service video from 2021. JD Vance, who's just awful by the moment, on Tucker Carlson. This is just 3 years ago. He's running for Senate. And he said, the United States is being run, quote, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choice they've made. So they want to make the rest of the country miserable. And then he picked Kamala Harris, AOC, and Pete Buttigieg just to be demeaning to gay people by saying somehow he's a childless cat lady. And then he did. I mean, he really did. He's just a piece of garbage, JD Vance, who himself wondered if he was gay in his book.
He's got children, though, right?
He does. He has adopted children. And then,
childless.
so, okay, we'll start with that. Then we'll get to the part that I found that was offensive in its own sense. Then there was another part to it. So, Amanda, do you have any cats?
I have no cats. I don't.
Cat. Do you like dogs? Are you a cat or dog person, by the way?
I'm neither. I can't. I'm like worse than a cat lady. I don't like the responsibility of pets. I love pets if they're not mine.
Wow.
That's how I feel about kids.
What?
That's how I feel about kids. I love them, but as long as they're somebody else's.
Right. Yeah. I don't like hair. I don't like the smell. Like, so I don't want to.
No pets.
I don't want that responsibility.
What about children?
Oh yes, I'd prefer children. So
you prefer
they're on ice right now. They're on ice right now. But when they're off,
they're ready,
to hatch, I will let everybody know.
So what do you think of this idea that America's run by childless cat ladies, and that what a demeaning comment?
Well, I'll say this that I thought was funny about the last part of that quote. He said that don't care about the future of the children, says the party that votes for unclean drinking water, says the party that wants more guns, says the party that wants to take away social services for poor kids. I mean, talk about who cares more about the future of the children. The party that wants clean drinking water, gun control, more money for schools, more social services for poor people. Mm-hmm. Let's look at who really cares about the future of children, sir.
Very, very true. Nitha, what about you?
And they want to cut the Department of Education. That's another part,
of course, because we don't want people to think.
Great points. The party that cares nothing about the future of kids. And I don't have any kids. I don't have any pets, so I'm a childless, free.
Petless. You're a petless, childless.
I'm a free, chilling lady, a very happy lady, and I love children, and pets are cute. But I feel the same way. The responsibility and financially, it's a lot. Like, you really have to be in the.
What about JD Vance's comment? Forget that part.
Okay.
Like, is this bullshit or what?
His comment is bullshit, and it is so insulting, once again, because that's all they know how to do. And in fact, it actually shows more insecurities on their part, because they realize that nobody wants a JD Vance or Donald Trump. Nobody's going to put up with that kind of BS. And, it's just also going back to their mediocrity and realizing that they're almost irrelevant, and they're so threatened by all these women that are excelling, doing great things. And, because women are more financially independent, able to take care of themselves, and they're realizing, hey, we don't need to put up with this crap, and a lot of women aren't, and people like JD Vance are extremely insecure and extremely threatened by that. So they're trying to hold on once again to the last vestiges of what a bygone era, and whoever believes with them, and they think it's going to work for them, and that's why Trump picked him, as red meat for their base. But I was saying he would have been better off if he had gone with like a Nikki Haley or a woman, because that would have been a complete, and that would have messed up the Dems, but they want to stick to their little percentage of people. Yeah,
that's the thing. And by the way, and they're continuing, and I'll go to you next, my friend Rhonda. And then he said after that, they want to make the rest of us miserable, childless cat ladies, and goes, how does it make sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? And the idea, if you don't have children, you don't have a direct stake in this country, which is just vile and garbagey. And so, Rhonda, what do you think about all of this?
He sounds misogynistic. He sounds short-sighted, and he sounds like he wanted to alienate a very large demographic from voting for him.
It's very clear. It is one of the dumbest. He said this in 2021 when he was running for the Senate in Ohio, and it didn't get that much press, but he said on Tucker Show. Now a lot of stuff is. And he repeated in another interview in 2022, the idea if you don't have children, that people who have children should be able to have more say in democracy than people without children. And that makes no sense to me. That makes zero sense to me. The idea that if you have children or not, you have less of a stake in our society.
Dean, is he asking for those people who don't have children to pay lower taxes because they don't have to pay for children to go to school? Is he asking for that?
Probably not. I mean, I don't think there's no benefit to any of that kind of stuff.
These people are unhinged, Dean. They are unhinged, irresponsible, and kind of kooky.
I mean, maybe the thing is like, they say these things in the right world sphere of the world, and no one ever goes like, oh, that's awful, or no one challenges. Even if people might not agree with it, they go, well, that's what they say. Then you hold it up to the sunlight of the rest of the world, the nation. People are like, what the F is going on? Like, who says this garbage? And Blake Edwards, who's running for Arizona Senate in the Republican nomination, doubled down on what JD said. Says, yeah, people who have children should have more of a stake in our society. If you don't, you shouldn't have say in the way our country's going. Do you know how many people without children fought in the military and were killed in service of freedom to ensure that we can have the rights to live our lives here? This is offensive on so many levels. And Jennifer Aniston had a good post.
Sorry, I was going to say it's so stupid because Kamala Harris is a stepmother to children. Like, yeah, she didn't have her own, but I'm like, it doesn't even land. It's such BS. And there's so many people that want to have kids that cannot for many like medical reasons or again, financial reasons. There's lots of reasons why people don't have kids. It's beyond insulting to a huge segment of the population.
But Dean, do you see how many people who actually have kids give them guns starting at an early age, and then those children go out and shoot up the world? I mean, it makes no sense.
Are you saying let's ban kids or ban guns? I'm just trying to be clear.
Both.
When you have kids and you can't afford the kids, and then you're and they condemn you for being a welfare queen or whatever it is. Right. So it's like you can't win,
Well, only to them, it's white Christian men that on the right that run everything. Right. And Jennifer Aniston had a great response. She said, all I can say, Mr. Vance, I pray that your daughter is fortunate enough to bear children on her own one day. And she wrote, I hope she will not need to turn to IVF as a second option because you are trying to take that away from her too. And that was such a great point. The next level of it on the right, they really do want to ban IVF. They believe it is killing a child because you're getting rid of eggs that potentially could be, I guess, fertilize and become human beings at some point down the road. So I'm glad Jennifer Aniston pointed that out. I mean, the contrast between Kamala Harris and Democrats in general and the Republicans who are on this ticket could not be more clear. And I think maybe Trump picked JD Vance to make himself look better. It's the only thing I could think of. He's like, this guy is so bad, but I can't give Trump that kind of credit because he didn't do any vetting. He was going to pick the boring governor of one of the Dakotas. They're both the same to me. And one of the Dakotas, the North one, I think, and Doug Burgum. And then he didn't pick him because his son and Peter Thiel, the billionaire, said, oh, JD's great. Go with JD. And the dad's like, okay, sure. And at that point, they thought they were going to win the election. No one's going to talk about JD. Now it's becoming dragging him down because now there's another story about AP ran a fact check. Did JD Vance have sex with a couch? And just the idea of that being the headline and the fact check is like, no, JD Vance did not have sex with a couch. But it exploded to the point where what happened is in the memoir Hillbilly Elegy, that it talks about a couch like 11 times and couches. And someone read into that was about him having sex with a couch. And it doesn't matter. Now it's out in the world, right? And people were talking about, you got to keep your couch away from JD Vance. He's a couch humper, that kind of stuff. And you're like, and I don't know if it's true or not. I heard Trump paid a couch $130,000 in hush money, though. In any event, folks, good night. I'll be here all week. But I mean, isn't this kind of fun, Rhonda? That JD Vance hates childless cat ladies, but wants to hump your couch. I mean, there's something going on.
I love that. Paul Lander had a meme where a couch was entirely covered in plastic and said, at least he used protection. At least.
That's funny.
This is great. It's become a meme, like on social media.
Yeah.
Younger people, everyone joking about it. I love that when it becomes
But
a lot.
I saw one where he tweeted that a woman was violated by a dolphin and enjoyed it. That's a whole new one. I think it's going to be every week. There's going to be a new Vance stumble, a new Vance gaffe that we're going to have to deal with, and Trump is going to have to absorb the shock of.
It's gonna be like a calendar. Like every week you pull off another thing, and JD Vance.
An advent calendar of JD Vance.
The weekly JD Vance gaffe calendar. Nida, what were you going to say?
I was saying, when this first came out, I didn't know what it was about, and I made the mistake of Googling JD Vance the couch, and I'm like, oh my God, it was so ridiculous. And to your point, Rhonda, like the memes have been hilarious. I'm sorry, we needed that moment of levity. And there was also one I saw where I think it was the characters from Beauty and the Beast, like the candle and the whatever. And somebody was like, they're saying to JD Vance, please, not me next.
So maybe they get a new version of the movie American Pie. Instead of the apple pie, it's the couch. like there he is doing his whole thing. We have video of, it's interesting too. Like I didn't read his book at all, but from what I read about it, Amanda, he had questions when he was younger if he was gay or not. And now he's one of these guys who are so anti-gay in terms of policy, demonizing the gay community. I'm not sure if he wears eyeliner or not. That's another thing you can Google about him. I'm not kidding. I can't. I don't know enough about eyeliner to say he wear it or not. There are images.
Or maybe he's wearing kajal. He is married to an Indian woman. It might be kajal, which is essentially eyeliner. So
Oh, so I mean, is this typical, the idea of the guy who struggled with his own sexuality when he was younger and now lashing out against gay people and demonizing them?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, wow, who would have thought? Who would have thought an ultra right wing guy that is pretty homophobic has struggles with his own sexuality? Who would have thought that was the narrative? I'm actually not surprised. I probably could have written his autobiography for him and not know him at all. So yeah, that is the typical story. That's you're projecting. You're angry at your own sexuality, and you just project it on to people who have embraced that lifestyle. Maybe a part of him is jealous. I think a lot of these people get jealous of homosexuals that live their truth. And they feel like they can't, so they get angry, so jealousy. Yeah.
And if there was a Democrat who was running for like vice president who had questions about their own sexuality, the right would be bringing it up. They'd be mocking that person left and right. I don't care what he does. I don't care if he humps catches. I don't care. I got to keep my lazy boy away from him, or an ottoman. Like JD, it's an ottoman. Get off it. It's like a dog. Like you gotta get a newspaper with JD.
Would be bringing it up like it's a bad thing. As you mature, as you grow, and you meet things in the world, you learn things about yourself, and you explore and you experiment, instead of using that as something to pull in those, what do they call them, log cabin Republicans or whatever.
Yeah, the gay Republicans, yeah.
Instead of using it as something to say, look how human I am, he says something that just makes him sound like a nutcase.
It's what they do.
And what really bothers me, jokes aside, is the whole book thing and the mainstreaming of the book. Like when that came out, he was on every single network. All these journalists and media outlets praised him like, oh, this great, amazing. And again, it's a mediocre book. And apparently it's a lot of it is lies and he stole from other people and whatever. I don't even know the full background of it. I did not read it as well. I don't have an interest in reading mediocre nonsense. So they mainstreamed him and gave him all these platforms and brought him to national attention. And now we're all stuck with this.
We are hillbilly elegy. All right.
I'm not stuck with him.
I did hear that the sofa was a female. So I think.
It's a female. That's what he's going to say. Furniture I checked. It was a woman.
Yes. So that's fine.
Yeah, but the chair was
identified as a female.
The pictures are just awful. It could have been. So the Olympics start. We only got a few minutes left, but the Olympics start today. Are any of you excited about the Olympics? Do you like the Olympics?
Yes.
Are you going to watch any of it? Nitha, you're going to watch it? You like the Olympics?
Absolutely. I love the Olympics, and I watched Snoop Dogg carrying the torch. I loved it. So he was carrying the torch, and then somebody in the crowd was playing one of his songs, and he started dancing and started doing the crip walk. I was like, I love it. So I will definitely be watching. But then on a sad note, I got to bring my, what do you call me, Debbie Downer? So, okay, this was, I tweeted this earlier today that as a Palestinians, there's some Palestinians that are participating, and it said since October, Israel's attacks have killed more than 300 Palestinian athletes, referees, and sports officials in Gaza. Over 300 people that cannot participate.
Well, and the Olympics, in a way, it's the world, everyone on the stage, and they try to put things aside. We'll see. I hopefully everything goes smooth. One of the new, I thought this was interesting. I was looking at the new sports this year. Breakdancing. It's called breaking. It's really, I'm not kidding. Breaking is good. If it was, there were people in the 90s that would be like, why didn't you do that then? Grandmaster Flash,
a white person's probably gonna win it, Dean. I'm not.
Actually, it's probably gonna be somebody from Asia, because it was always a huge thing in a lot of Asian countries too. So it probably will be. And breaking is one of the elements of hip hop, so it is integral. So I'm happy to see it. I'm for it. And I do love that global aspect. That's why I love the Olympics, because it brings together the entire world. It's so beautiful to see that mosaic and everybody together. If only we could be like that all the time.
So, I mean, they're going to have like electric boogaloo type of thing, like things inspired. But I mean, it's like breakdancing. It's weird I have all the respect in the world, but I thought it was sports. Like, what's nuts? Like Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
We're going to have that. Or MILF Manor is going to be a thing on, which is actually a show right now. I'm not even kidding you. Is that going to become like an event in the future? Amanda, are you going to watch the Olympics? And are you going to watch I'm going to watch the breakdancing because I think it's really cool to watch it. I just think it's weird in the Olympics. That's all.
Why is bowling in the Olympics?
Well, it could be. Baseball's not this year. They took it out this year for whatever reason.
All right. Well, I just think if I was a bowler, I'd be really offended that the breakdancers got in before me. Like, they are athletes. Dean.
If you can bowl and dance at the same time, you can do it. Like he's breaking while bowling type of thing. Rhonda,
you family varsity bowlers, so I take offense to the fact that we are not represented.
Do you come from a family of bowlers?
Yeah, my sister's a varsity bowler. So
wow. Would have thought that. What about Rhonda? Are you going to watch any of the Olympics? Are you looking forward to it?
I'm going to be very busy this week at the Black Theater conference, the Black Theater Festival. But I do hope to catch up with what Simone Biles is doing. She is coming back with a vengeance from being away and taking a health break. I'm so proud of her for taking care of herself, and not letting the disparaging remarks around her stop her. She looks better than ever. And I do hope to catch what she's doing. And I may take a peek at the hip hop dancing, the
breaking. It's called breaking.
So that the next time we talk, we can compare numbers.
And I appreciate that you raised Simone Biles. So before we run out of time, I just want to give each of you a chance to plug what you're doing, where people can follow your work. Let's start with you, Amanda. Where can people follow your work?
I'm the Amanda Gail on all social media platforms. I have a podcast, The Audacity, and then I have show dates if you want to check them out. Or don't, you can check them out.
Check them out. Amanda Gail. Very funny. Nitha, what about you, my friend?
So maybe I'll be performing with you on Sunday. Is that correct?
Not this one, but the next one.
Not this one, the next one, right?
The next Brown show.
My new career path, comedy. No, I will be, usual freelancing everywhere, and you can follow me on, I still call it Twitter. It's at Nida Khan NY, NIDAKHANNY.
And Rhonda, my friend, what about you? Where can people follow you?
Well, I want people to go to my new website. I finally zhushed it up after 10 years, RhondaHansome.com, and leave an email, leave a message, tell me how you like it. And also, if you're any place near Winston-Salem, North Carolina, come out to the International Black Theater Festival, where I'll be doing as much as I can and enjoying as much as I can. Or just follow me on X at Rhonda Hansome. That's like a handsome man without the D.
Thank you, Rhonda, and best of luck with the festival. I wish you the best there, and I look forward to chatting with you. Well, thank you, Amanda and Nitha. Thank you all three of you. We're going to take a break, come back.